right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Katie Greifeld, taking you through to that closing bell. It's a global simulcast. Carol, Massar, Tim Stenovec, they join us now. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, television, radio, our partnership with YouTube here on the final trading day of the month and of the quarter. Carol, Massar, you're rubbing your hands.
Because it's cold in here.
Oh, okay. I thought you were rubbing your hands because of the hot gains that we're seeing in this market.
Yeah, talk about those hot gains. I mean, you've got, the best quarter for the S&P 500 since 2020, maybe even a little bit further back. Best quarter ever for chip stocks. We just talked with our Eric Weiner. The way the semiconductor rally has moved this year, we are on track to have the best year ever in semiconductors if these gains continue and if these gains hold.
If the gains hold.
I know, big if.
Yeah, we'll see what actually happens, for the rest of the year. Let's put some numbers, though, to what exactly this quarter looks like. Well, looking pretty good.
I know. I was going to be optimistic at this point.
Well, you never know.
Let's just go there. Let's
15% higher for the S&P 500. The Nasdaq Composite up more than 21%. We'll just round that up to 21.5%. And the Dow, Katie's favorite, up this quarter. Yeah, 13%.
I hear what you're
Transports,
saying.
Katie, up 17.
I love transports. Love those old economy stocks and price-weighted indexes. I will say that July historically has gotten off to a pretty strong start for the S&P 500, but think about other seasonal patterns, sell in May, that obviously didn't happen. So we'll see if any of those, old records or old patterns sort of hold here.
Well, it's been a little bit of a mixed month of June, but for the quarter, the gains are undeniable. We get the closing bells here on this June 30th, 2026, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average adding about 120 points here on the day, up only about 0.2% on the day, but that's going to be good enough for a gain for the quarter of about 13%. The S&P adding about 58 points or 0.8% on the day, 15% higher over the last 3 months. The Nasdaq 100 and the Nasdaq Composite each up about 1.5% or more than 20% for the quarter, and the Russell 2000 getting in on the action, a gain on the day of about 0.5%, up about 3.6% on the month and about 21% for the quarter.
Yeah, quite a move, right, in all of those indices. Back to the S&P 500, just for the day, I'm going to take a look. Kind of an even split, 211 to the upside, Katie, 291 to the downside.
Yeah, you see that on the sector level as well as measured by the circle. Information technology, that is your bright green slice, higher by about 2.6% as a sector. We know that the chips had a good day. Industrials, materials also higher on the day, helping to lead gains. In terms of what didn't perform on this final trading day of the quarter, real estate down by 2.2% as a sector. You also saw drops of about 1.5% when it comes to consumer staples and utilities, Carol.
All right, let's go to some of the individual gainers. Got to talk about stuff we've already mentioned, but let's go there anyway. Philadelphia Semiconductor Index adding on another 4% for the first half of 2026. So chip stocks, as we said, looks like their best quarter ever. So quite a start to the year. We know the story, the AI demand for all things semiconductors. We should point out, though, it does feel like investors have gotten a little bit more skeptical, and we have seen some moves or some volatility in the sector. Eric Weiner of our Bloomberg team here just on air with us, and he said that the stocks is on its way to its best year ever. So we've seen quite a move. I just want to mention a couple of them. Chip tool stocks also rallying. So KLA 10 Core Semi Manufacturing, it was a top name in the S&P and Nasdaq 100. That went up more than 8%. ASML up about 5.6%. These companies rallying as increased investments from leading chip makers in South Korea bolstered investors' optimism. Latest strength in the sector coming after Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix announced plans to build 2 chip-making plants apiece in South Korea for a total of about $500 billion U.S. You also had Susquehanna adjusting the firm's price target on KLA to $275 from $1,700 and keeps a neutral rating on the shares. Firm updated its model following some channel checks. So well,
Yeah, I also throw in there Ambarella, which had a fantastic day today, up 28%. That's the best day that they've had on record, and that was largely because of that rotation trade here. Rosenblatt actually naming its top pick, saying people are starting to rotate to some of these physical AI names, and I guess Ambarella, in the analyst's perspective, fits squarely into that category.
Yeah, there's some movement, right? Yeah. Certainly, Ron. Hey, just quickly, I want to mention solar stocks, Enphase, SolarEdge. We saw solar technology stocks.
Yeah, they should do well. It's going to be like 100 degrees this week. Is that how it works when it's hotter?
No, that's not how it works. Enphase was up 1.9%. SolarEdge up about 5.5%. This is on reports that the FCC is drafting a ban on imports of foreign inverters. And while Chinese manufacturers have limited U.S. residential market share, they do have a larger utility and storage share. That was coming out from an analyst. So we did see those names move. And then I just want to mention something that's kind of near and dear to us. We just did a remote in Vegas with the team over at Everpure. Well, this name, ticker is P if you're not familiar, stock up about 9%, jumping as Reuters says. Java Partners built a new position in the company. If you're not familiar with Everpure, it used to be Pure Storage. They're a data management enterprise storage system company. And so that one was on the move kind of late in the day. Yeah. And if you missed our interviews, we talked to the CEO, we talked to the CFO.
Yeah.
Wow.
They talked a lot about ROI when it comes to AI. That is certainly an
Hey, Tim, what do you got?
I got some stocks that are in the red. It might feel like deja vu all over again from yesterday because telecom companies fell for another day today, down 5%. And for the same reason, I'm going with AT&T instead of Verizon today, down more than 5% after it fell 6.3% yesterday. This after the news that SpaceX and Charter Communications are having executive-level talks about partnering on a consumer mobile phone offering that could directly challenge wireless providers, this according to 3 people familiar with the matter. But again, this is the second day in a row these stocks are falling as a result of those talks. It's about the concern that it has to the core business for the big 3 players, of course, when it comes to mobile phones. Also, let's talk a little bit about telecom, or rather communication services and those call center services. So if you're, on the phone with a call center and you're not necessarily talking to a person, you're talking to an AI, that's a concern for Concentrix, down today by 11.2%. These are companies that are typically handling actual human being requests and requests going to humans, but there's concern now that that's going to be replaced with AI. Teleperformance is another company that fell today. This after Concentrix cut its revenue outlook. It warned that some of its customers are cutting back on spending. Concentrix late yesterday also lowered the midpoint of its fiscal 2026 revenue outlook range by about $130 million. Executives flagged several scenarios where clients ended up cutting down on call center spending. It's funny, Carol mentioned Eric Weiner coming on and talking to us about the stocks. He also told us that he was buying a new iPhone as a result of, getting ahead of the memory chip, the memory, expenses growing. And he had an issue with his phone and he spent days with the AIs at a certain telecom company. And when he was finally connected to an actual human being, they figured out his problem in like 15 minutes. Wow. So I don't know. Do with that what you will. Any coconut water fans here?
No. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. Vita Coco shares down by 8.8% today.
What?
4th straight session of declines. The stock down close to 20% over the last 4 days. Right. Largest quad period drop going back to March of 2022. Still shares up more than 20% so far this year. Vita Coco down 8.8% today.
You don't have a reason for that, Tim? Or just...
They're just down.
Okay.
There was some talk about some index stuff, but we're not going to go there.
Okay.
Coconut water is
Don't
Yankee. It's probably a good reason.
All right. If you care about yields, they're actually significantly higher on the day. Looking at about 5 basis points on your 2-year yield. The longer end of the curve, you're looking at about 7 to 8 basis points. Remember, this has kind of been oscillating back and forth for quite some time as everyone tries to divine what the next move is by the Fed.
All right, maybe this will make you happy, Romaine. Nestle to change its Kit Kat recipe across Europe. They're going to make it crispier. They're also going to add a little bit of hazelnut tone to attract new customers.
Wait, I'm sorry. Crispier? How can they be crispier?
I don't know.
They're
Apparently
pretty
they can be.
crisp.
Apparently they can.
Break me off a piece.
Yeah.
September 2027, it'll add a 3rd level. That's how they're making it crispier.
A 3rd level?
Yeah, so when you bite into a Kit Kat, you see the different levels.
Yes.
They're adding a 3rd level.
A 3rd level?
Yeah, it'll give it a more complex level of taste without
you're
reducing
saying
the cocoa
Nestle is
share.
going to become like Gillette, where they just keep adding like blades.
Well, what happens if they add a 4th level?
Who knows?
But not in the
It'll
UK.
be unbiteable.
They're not doing this in the UK. Apparently they get, they like the preferred taste described as burned caramel.
I do like
UK?
the regional
that's pretty on
differences when
brand
it
for
comes
the UK,
to.
Yeah.
I like the regional differences when it
I
comes
had
to this
breakfast in
stuff.
the UK about 10 years ago. I think I'm still digesting it.
A lot of roasts.
Yeah.
A lot of roasts over there.